I am going to call out and reveal the truth behind 5 dirty secrets, the skeletons in the closet that business owners won't tell you and want to keep hidden. Why? Because they need to maintain a certain narrative to keep you buying from them. But once you find out, you might have second thoughts. I've been selling products online since 2006. I started coaching other people how to do this in 2014. I have 4 online businesses that I still run to this day that make me over 7 figures every single year in sales cumulatively. So I have been around the block for a long time, and I have seen some really nasty behavior and shifts in the online space. So unless this is your full-time job like it is for me, you probably don't even notice these things happening. So in this video, I'm going to bring them to light and reveal the truth of what's really going on. First thing I want to talk about is copycat culture is getting so bad. I mean, this was always a problem, but the secret no one wants to admit is most businesses do this, but they do it wrong. My entire jewelry shop website has been lifted, like word for word. My about page, my home page was copied over onto someone else's website. I have had people copy my products over and over again. They're using keywords and tags that are only relevant to my business, but using it on their listings in an effort to hijack my success and traffic. Other coaches that I used to respect are completely using word for word the marketing messaging that I use in my business. People don't innovate enough, and I think this is rooted in the constant chasing of what works without spending time on making it their own. Now, I am a huge proponent of doing more of what works, but don't copy blindly without first understanding why it worked well in the first place. If you don't spend that time to analyze the why first, you are inevitably going to copy someone else too closely, even if it was an accident and you didn't mean to. The problem with this is the copycatter is rarely going to see the same level of success, and if they do, it's not going to last. It's almost impossible to enforce protection around ideas, so many people think they can just get away with it. But there is a much larger and more ominous problem that this brings forth if you are not diligent about this. If you don't invest the time to actually develop the skills to create amazing products and really understand how to do marketing, you are always going to be on this copycat hamster wheel, and your ideas will only ever be as good as the next person's. And once that idea stops working, you are back on the ground copying someone else's idea. It is all too short-term thinking that's exhausting and unsustainable. And if you stay on this path, don't be surprised if you find yourself going back to a 9-to-5 job pretty soon. The second secret, which is not so much a secret because I have said this so many times before, people are still obsessively chasing tons of followers with too little focus on how to actually turn those people into sales. I just watched a YouTuber who has amazing content. Like, you could tell she probably spent dozens of hours on each video she puts out, all for free. And people do this to stand out, right? To get people to subscribe and become followers and to eventually buy from them. So after watching, I thought, wow, I would love to buy her stuff. So I clicked her link in her YouTube bio, right? But both links she had brought me to were either for her X or her Instagram, which I thought was weird. Why no website? Then I finally find her website in her X bio, and I went to her product page, which wasn't even a fully constructed page. Like, just imagine it was a blank white page with just a picture on top and a half-formed sentence. Like, it wasn't even a fully finished sentence, and then there's the price. There is no way that this gives anyone confidence to buy. So what's the point of spending all of those hours into making content that's so incredible, but there is no clear path to monetizing from that? We need to get paid for the work we do, otherwise what's the point? You could be the most popular influencer in the world, but if you have nothing to sell or if you don't have a good product, you are going to struggle to make money. I know it's addicting and a great dopamine boost to see your follower count growing or to see a post get more engagement than normal, but we have to remember that likes and comments don't pay bills. So I really want you to question the time you spend on doing things that grow your following and even ask yourself if that really should be your goal in the first place. Most of us are spending a disproportionate amount of time on content creation for the mere sake of getting more followers, which we know doesn't automatically translate into sales. I'm also going to call out the surge of successful shops that were born around 2020. That was a time when everyone was forced to stay at home and lots of policies were created to help finance people's lives, right? It was really interesting to see how shopping increased during that year. This was the year that 2 of my businesses even made it to 7 figures each. So literally I made $2 million plus in sales that year, whereas normally I would make $1 million across all of my businesses. So So basically, it took a lot less to do well in 2020 because people were stuck at home, bored with nothing to do, so they shopped a lot. But what happened from this was we have a ton of content creators who've come out of the woodwork talking about their success. What I want to know is if they're still successful today. The reason this is so thought-provoking for me is because so many of these same creators turned to coaching. And my suspicion is because their original product shops aren't doing so well anymore. But in my opinion, you don't really get to be a coach if you don't have a framework that's repeatable. Anyone can get lucky and be a one-hit wonder, but can you do it multiple times, again and again? I think what happened was people got a taste of what it's like to be self-employed, to work from home, and of course, once you come over to the dark side, you can never go back. But if your original business isn't doing so well anymore and you don't want to go back to the workforce, you pivot and do something else. So the trajectory I've seen people go in is to start selling digital products, or they become influencers or content creators on TikTok or YouTube, or they become coaches. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with this, except when people use their success from 2020 as the only reference to their success and qualification to coach, that is when it becomes a problem. And this leads me to my next point, which is pre-selling done wrong. So pre-selling as a concept is where you sell a product that doesn't exist yet. It only exists in concept. Lots of people who get into coaching take this pre-selling idea too far and they do it wrong, to the point where it just damages the experience for everyone. For example, I used to work with a coach that told me to put up a sales page for a course that I didn't yet have for sale. There's nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to make it clear that the course will be delivered at a future date. That way, if people bought the course, they knew when to expect the course to be delivered, right? That's something anyone would want to know, right? That's what I would want to know. If I buy something, when can I expect to have it? This particular coach told me not to say that, I think because he believed that would lower sales conversion rates. And he said to only say it on the post-purchase confirmation page and then offer to give people refunds if they didn't like that they wouldn't get the course right away. I just had a lot of beef with that idea, and it breaks trust with people. That is the literal definition of clickbait. Needless to say, I stopped working with that coach right away because our values just weren't aligned. Another way I see this manifesting is top coaches out there are selling courses that are just really bad. They focus so much on sales and marketing and hyping up their program and not enough time on actually developing a high quality program. You cannot believe how many times someone else's student emails me to say they want to join my course, but they're scared to because their experience has been terrible with the course that they're already in, and generally they just have a bad experience with courses. And my students who started in my program first, then go to another course later, come back to tell me that my course is the best. I think people in general just don't spend enough time on making a product that's really good, whether that's a physical product or a course or service. But because they're good at marketing and hyping up their own products, lots of people buy them. But then the product is bad and customers are disappointed, and then that tarnishes their overall opinion of that type of product in general. There are so many people out there that believe that any product seller who has a course for sale, like me, are scams. And I feel sad for how we got here, because it's true. Most courses out there are scams, and people have been scammed way too many times. It hurts the entire industry. When I started coaching back in 2014, I was on the other extreme end of caring way too much about the end product, about the learning experience, and not enough focus on sales and marketing. So I was slower to grow than my other business friends that were coaches. And frankly, I don't regret that because I know with 1,000% confidence and certainty that my course is really, really good. I believe that when you invest in making your product so amazing, that you have just made it 100 times easier and more likely for your customers to come back to shop from you again and to tell their friends about you. But if your product is crap, it doesn't matter that you got them to buy from you once. You have broken the trust with them and they're not going to continue being a part of your business. And that is not a recipe for long-term success. Going back to my previous point, people who had success in 2020 turned to coaching because they think it's easy money. It's really not. But 99% of them don't care about the customer experience or in developing a truly remarkable product or service. So just be careful with who you get business advice from, okay? It was easy to be successful in 2020, but that doesn't automatically qualify someone to give you advice. I must be on some sort of coaching kick right now because the other thing I've observed is that coaches and gurus often overwhelm you with so much detailed minutia information about how to create the perfect Instagram carousel post or reel, or here's how to blow up your YouTube channel. But it's this insane, completely unsustainable process that's only doable by someone who has a lot of resources like time and money to accomplish. I suspect that people do this because they want you to think they have all the keys and secrets to success and that it's a really convoluted process. It's such a mystery, and this trains you into thinking you need this coach and that you need them constantly. In my opinion, that is not what a good coach should do. A good coach should teach you how to think independently from them, to not be reliant on them. Otherwise, what have you really learned from them? And at the end of the day, the keys to success boils down to really simple fundamental rules of business. That's why I harp on the same things over and over again in all of my content platforms, because the fundamentals never change. But if content creators admitted that and told you that, they would run out of content to make pretty quickly once they covered the fundamentals, right?